Y'all ready? Good evening. It's good to see everybody on this beautiful spring evening in Mount Pleasant, one of those days that makes me not want to live anywhere else in the entire world. Today is our Town Council monthly meeting for Tuesday, April the 12th. It is 6 p.m. Our agenda has been put out there for you. Item A is a prayer by Chaplain Bowman, followed by the pledge that will be led by Councilman Chapman. Please stand.
Dear Sovereign Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the beauties of this earth, this wonderful seasonal weather, and we thank you that we're fortunate to live in a country where we are free to assemble and talk about our needs and our wants for our community, for our nation, and for our world. Bless the people of this community and also bless the Mount Pleasant leaders and the agenda for this evening. Let the leaders have ears to hear and wisdom to discern the best for their constituents. And we ask that all of the discussion and discernment that occurs this evening will be pleasing to you and will be for the betterment of Mount Pleasant. We ask that patience and consideration be the word of the day as we move forward. And we ask this in your divine name. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. If we can get a motion, and then we have a
Second.
motion to approve and...
No, I move to amend the,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to move items 10A, 3, 4, and 5 to 10C.
Mr. Paglioni, is that in line with what we had discussed? That just
Yes, sir. That
puts
is
both things
appropriate.
that need an executive session together.
Correct.
The motion is to move item 10A, 3, 4, and 5 to 10C. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion? All right, we're voting on the amendment to the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the amendment is approved. Now let's vote on the agenda as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we now have an amended agenda. Item 4 is public hearings, awards, and presentations. First is our Days of Remembrance proclamation. Town Administrator Eric DeMoro will handle that along with Rabbi Refson.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
Mr.
there
Mayor,
it is.
members of council. Good evening. Rabbi, would you join me up front, please? And before I begin, I'd like to recognize those here on behalf of the Jewish Federation. Reggie, saw you again a moment ago. Welcome. Let's see, Gila Fish and Brandon Fish, thank you for being here. Also wanted to point out and recognize Holocaust survivor Deanie Atkins. Thank you for being here as well, Deanie. Deanie's been here, I know as long as I've been here, you've been here with us for the reading of this proclamation. You're welcome to come up or sit where they are, wherever you'd like to be. On your behalf, Mayor, I'll go ahead and read this proclamation.
Please.
Whereas the Holocaust was a state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jewry by Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945. Whereas we remember with sadness the 11 million people, including 6 million Jews, who were victims of Hitler's final solution, along with those who were persecuted for their religious and political beliefs, sexual orientation, and physical disabilities. And whereas we remember with admiration the resistors and rescuers, known and unknown, who risked and lost their lives to save others. Whereas we remember with respect the survivors who escaped, were sheltered, or who were freed, and who lived to contribute so much to our community and to our world. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, and whereas we have an obligation to ensure that the memory and legacy of lives lost or forever changed in this horrific event are never forgotten. And whereas we remember and honor the liberators which liberated the World War II concentration camp 76 years ago. Therefore, be it resolved that we pledge today to firmly commit ourselves to never forget and to work to promote human dignity by confronting intolerance and hate whenever and wherever it occurs. Now, therefore, I, Will Haney, Mayor of the Town of Mount Pleasant, pursuant to an act of Congress and United States Holocaust Memorial Council, do hereby proclaim the week of Sunday, April 24th through Sunday, May 1st, 2022, as Week of Remembrance in memory of the victims, survivors, rescuers, and liberators of the Holocaust, and further proclaim that we as citizens of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, should promote human dignity, confront hate whenever and wherever it occurs. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Town Council. Appreciate you doing this. Remembering the atrocities of the past is key to making sure they're not repeated. And as we know from the world today, it can very easily happen. So if you'll just take a moment to light your candles.
Yeah. No? Hello. Thank you for having us, and we really appreciate it. My name is Deanie Atkins, and through the years, I lived in Mount Pleasant for the longest time, but now I live in James Island, in Indigo Hall. I go to schools and I go to organizations. Anybody who wants to hear my story, I'll go. I've been over to 5 states up north. I spoke in the Holocaust Museum and I got honored. And I've been to California. So I go wherever I go till I can't go no more because I'm getting a little older. We cannot forget this. If I'm not here, my daughter is going to take over because we all need to remember what happened. And now, we having a war again. And I see myself as one of those kids being molested, being just beaten to death. And I have been very depressed the past weeks because I see myself in the little girl who was in the paper. I appreciate that you do this for us every year, and I hope to see you next year. I am 84 years old, and if y'all want to come and see me, I live in Indigo Hall.
Thank you, Dean.
Honored Mayor and council members, my name is Joe Rothstein. I am a child of Holocaust survivors, and I'm also a member of the Jewish Federation Remember Committee. I share with you a little bit about what the yellow candle represents. The yellow candle was created to keep alive the memory of 6 million who perished in the Holocaust. You know, we throw around big numbers, 1 million, 6 million, 10 million. I was looking at the budget, 102 million, 185, tremendous numbers, but what does 6 million actually represent? So I'd like you just for a minute to picture everyone we know, everyone you've had contact with, every neighbor, every friend, every police officer, firefighter, clergy person, shop owner in our town of Mount Pleasant, gone. Not a single person, man, woman, or child, left in Mount Pleasant. Everybody gone. Expand that to the greater Charleston area. Everyone we've ever met, gone. Take it a step further, the entire state of South Carolina. Not a living soul, every man, woman, and child ripped out of their homes, separated from their loved ones, parents, children, gone. They were brutally killed, murdered. And that number is only 5.2 million. The candle is modeled after the traditional Jewish memorial candle that burns for 24 hours during periods of mourning or on the annual anniversary of a loved one's death, passing. The candle's yellow wax is to remind us of the yellow Star of David that all Jews had to wear during the Nazi regime. So as we light the yellow candle, we vow to never forget the lives of these men, women, and children symbolized by those flames. They were tortured, brutalized by human beings who acted like beasts. Their lives were taken cruelly. May we be inspired to learn more about these 6 million brothers, sisters, as individuals and as communities. To recall their memory throughout the year, may we remember both the terror of their deaths and the splendor of their lives. May the memory of their lives inspire us to honor our own lives and the lives and to live meaningful lives so that we may help secure that the part who they were shall always endure. Thanks, the Jewish Federation of Greater Charleston, thanks all of you for committing to Holocaust education and awareness as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the speakers for? Okay. Thank you all very much. Very touching. Item B is recognition of Mount Pleasant Track Club athletes.
I believe Mr. Santos is going to lead us in that, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my honor again tonight to be up in front of you with these outstanding athletes. As I've said before, this is one of my favorite things to do at council meeting is honor our youth in the town on their accomplishments. And there's certainly some accomplishments here tonight. Tonight, we want to recognize 2 Mount Pleasant Track Club athletes that competed at the Adidas National Indoor Track Championship in Virginia Beach in March. According to Coach Tom Reagan, a good pole vaulter must have a sprinter speed, shot putter's upper body strength, the acrobatic ability of a gymnast, and be crazy enough to run down a runway with a 14-foot pole and catapult themselves into the air. The mental aspect of the sport is often overlooked, but it is probably the biggest factor between a good pole vaulter and a great pole vaulter. Hannah Tugami is a junior at Wando High School and has been pole vaulting since the 7th grade. She won the New Balance Outdoor Pole Vault Championship for junior high when she was in the 8th grade. She is a 3-time USATF All-American pole vaulter. She is a 2-time defending 5A pole vault state champion. She is the only 8th grader ever to win the SCHSL pole vault state championship. Hannah recently cleared 13 feet 1 inch for a new personal record. Last month at the Adidas Indoor National Championships, Hannah finished 4th with a clearance of 12 feet 10.25 inches. She is an excellent student and is currently being recruited by several colleges. Congratulations, Hannah. Tessa Mudd started pole vaulting as a freshman, is currently a senior at Collegiate Academy and defending state pole vault champion. This marks the first time in South Carolina history that a high school girl has gone over 14 feet in a competition, a height that would have broken the boys' SCISA state record. She is currently ranked 3rd in the country in outdoor pole vaulting. Last month, Tessa finished in 1st place at the Adidas Indoor Nationals, clearing an incredible 14 feet, 1.25 inches. Tessa is also an outstanding student. She will attend Princeton University in the fall and vault for the Tigers track and field team. According to Coach Reagan, Tessa is the complete package. Congratulations, Tessa. Behind these great athletes is a very talented and dedicated coach. Tom Reagan started coaching pole vault at Wando High School in 1995. Since then, he has coached over 30 high school state champions. Currently, 2 of the top 10 ranked in high school boys and all of the top 10 ranked South Carolina high school girls trained with Coach Reagan. Tom has assisted the Mount Pleasant Track Club vaulters the past 10 years. In that time, he has had 18 All-Americans. 18 All-Americans, that's amazing. 4 of which were national champions. Tom is a treasure to this community and the epitome of a volunteer coach. He devotes countless hours training his athletes and travels all over the state and country to attend meets. According to the MPTC, Coach Tammy Dennis, Tom and his Mount Pleasant Track Club vaulters have put Mount Pleasant on the map. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have some outstanding youth with some outstanding accomplishments. And an outstanding coach as well. And Coach Dennis as well. I see Coach Tammy out in the crowd too. I want to recognize Coach Dennis. She's the same. They're very dedicated. They're what's made our track team what it is.
Pictures.
Fresh.
Don't have a choice.
Congratulations. Item C is actually a public hearing, which we do within our agenda. When the public hearing ends, I am required to gavel the public hearing closed. So I just wanted to explain that. This is a public hearing to receive input regarding the proposed municipal budget for the 2023 fiscal year. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kotoff.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is a public hearing pursuant to Section 6-1-80 of the South Carolina Code of Laws on the proposed fiscal year 2023 Mount Pleasant budget. The proposed budget is in the amount of $185,885,587, and it is based on an unchanged millage rate of 39.3 mils.
All right, is there anyone here from the public to speak at this public hearing regarding the proposed budget for next year? Anyone here to speak? This is not regular public comment, this is just for the public hearing on the budget. Anyone, before we close? All right, I will declare this public hearing closed. This moves us to item 5, approval of the minutes from the March 8 Town Council meeting.
Move for approval.
And the February 2022
Second.
financial statement. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve those two items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, minutes are approved. Item 6 is public comment. If you have a comment that you would like to make, please come forward. We have signed up. The chair will, by ordinance, as we are allowed under Robert's rules, give 2.5 minutes for each person. 2.5 minutes if you would like to speak. Please come forward when your name is called.
First speaker is Barry Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. On this days of remembrance, I'd like to remember my uncle, who was Jean-Paul Wolf, who my middle name is, I am his namesake, who was killed in Auschwitz. It makes these comments pale in comparison to that. Barry Wolf, 1468 Pocahontas Street. Council knows, but as a matter of fact, to put my remarks in context, all should know that I served on the Board of Zoning Appeals from June 2016 to January. That's longer than any of you on council other than Will and Gary have served, just to really put in context. I was elected chair in 2021 and 22. Never had a decision overturned. You can imagine my surprise where at the February council meeting, I was essentially, as the sitting chair, voted off the board. Ms. Corley, Ms. Whitley, Icofano, Rambo, Ritchie, Santos were the nays. When I asked for a reason why I was essentially terminated from my position, I either got no answer from 6 of you, one really stupid, nonsensical answer, and then a cowardly I hide behind executive session. If I were an employee of the town, you could not have fired me for cause. I did an exemplary job, as indicated by my peers on the board, electing me chair for 3 years. I don't think you could find a member of staff, any of the attorneys, that would disparage me. As an employee of the town, I would have been allowed a public hearing. I would have been allowed to hear what was said. But as a citizen, you have the right to say anything you want about me behind closed doors. Disparage me, slander me, say whatever you want to do. I have no recourse. That's just wrong. Period. Frankly, I don't care what happened in executive session. Whatever you did wasn't in the best interest of the town. You took 6 years of experience. You took 6 years of being in mediation for this town. You took 6 years of the good I did for this town and trashed it. Something about that doesn't make sense.
2.5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Next.
Nancy Leon.
Hi, thank you very much for letting me the opportunity to talk. I'm a Mount Pleasant resident. I just moved into the Midtown townhouses over by 1600 Midtown Avenue. There's a plan right now. There's a plan right now to have a project called The Gather. Hold on a second. The Gather is going to be constructed right across the street from where our townhouses are right now. It's 72 units, and they're going to be sharing, the way the plan is laid out, a road with us. This road right now is very narrow. Our fear, which some of us will share, but I'm going to address it from having a child, is not only being afraid that a truck that's trying to back in and out of that narrow road that they share with us will run over one of our children, but my concern is that we're going to be sharing parking lot spaces, and so there will be strangers that are wandering around our neighborhood, and currently, there, in the 1 mile radius to my house, there's 8 sexual predators in Mount Pleasant in a 1 mile radius of where I live. And my concern is if our kids are going to be wandering around and there will be more strangers tracing in and out of that Gather project, that it'll be of more concern for the parents that have children there. So we are welcoming this project, but for me personally, it would be great if they could just tweak the blueprints a little bit, where all the access for the people that are coming to enjoy this new facility will be accessed mainly from the Midtown Avenue location, so not having to come into our community, and then just having some fence or barrier so that it doesn't encourage people to like trace, wander into our neighborhoods where our children are playing. That's it. Thank you.
Bill Deach.
Thank you. My name is Bill Deach. I live at 216 Bennett Street. I'm here to address the upcoming proposal to examine the noise ordinance, where the PJL committee recently came out with a recommendation that the council commence a pilot study, and to urge you to treat seriously the community's recommendation that the noise ordinance be set at 55 decibels. Chris Coleman, who's been a yeoman on this project, will address it more closely. But fair to say, I think, that this community, if it holds itself out as being to be a peaceful, civil place for its citizens and voters, should adopt an ordinance that really addresses this in a way that seriously will control the noise from amplified music in particular, which is a terrible nuisance to many in our community. Thank you.
Rick Schaltiger.
I'm not going to take much time. We have multiple people from our neighborhood that are planning on speaking, and Nancy spoke first about Gather Mount Pleasant. I'm also in the Lennard Midtown Townhomes, and I just wanted to make sure that I also spoke only so that you guys understood. It's not just a couple people that have concerns. It's basically everyone we've spoken to in the neighborhood all has similar concerns. I think we all agree it could be a great thing for the town and even for our neighborhood if it's done correctly. But the current plans have some serious concerns for all of us. The main two being primarily the plan is to have two sort of roads come off of the main road and come right through the Gather Mount Pleasant project into our neighborhood. So as Nancy said, we have concerns about traffic. We have concerns about delivery trucks coming through there. There's a lot of children, a lot of people with dogs in there. And also them parking throughout our neighborhood and sort of, congesting the area. The other concern also is just the plans as we've seen them so far don't really have much to separate the Gather Mount Pleasant project from our neighborhood. So just something to, whether it's some landscaping, a decorative wall or something, just to sort of have it a little more pleasant so we're not just looking at dumpsters and, garbage and delivery trucks, that sort of thing. But like I said, we have other people speaking, so I don't want to take up your time. Thank you.
Tommy Dinkins?
Good evening. My name is Tommy Dinkins, and I'm a Midtown Townhomes homeowner. I am here today to speak in opposition to the Gather project as well. It's the open lot adjacent to our neighborhood, literally a stone's throw away from most of our front doors. Our community feels strongly that we were misled by both Lennar and the developers. We were led to believe that this would be a mixed-use retail commercial space similar to what you'd find at the entryway of Ion. In fact, that's a gross misrepresentation of what the Gather is entailing, including up to 13 different food and beverage establishments, loud outdoor music events, up to 5 days a week. You've got outdoor dining, boutique hotels, and more. The stage would be literally 0.1 miles away from someone's front door. With music playing up to 10 p.m., there would be no way to escape the noise, the traffic, and the other nuisances this development would create for our community. Even more egregious are the easements Lennar gave to the developer to make full use of our neighborhood streets and parking, which our community is already struggling with parking without that development. But specifically, how can a developer claim 100% use of our parking when he's sharing it with 72 homeowners? So in that case, if parking was considered using 100% of our lots, it should be reconsidered as shared, which makes me think he would have to revise his plans and shrink his footprint. And finally, what is relevant here is not only the complete attack on Midtown homeowners' quality of life, but also indirect violation of our community's nuisance clause and our master deed. I believe you all are working on that noise ordinance pilot that, if passed in any capacity, would also create daily issues and fines in Midtown. And point being, the studies show that noises above 120 decibels can cause immediate harm to your ears. 120 decibels. Normal music, outdoor live events average between 100 and 110. And that's what's going to be going on right outside of our doors. So while I personally think the concept of Gather is intriguing and certainly can offer value to Mount Pleasant, I find that it's completely inappropriate for this location. Thank you.
Megan Posner?
My name is Megan Posner. I live at 1562 Hancock in the Midtown Townhouses, as my neighbors have mentioned. I'm opposed to Gather Mount Pleasant in that location. I personally am not looking for some kind of adjustment on it. I think it's completely in the wrong spot. It's modeled on Gather Greenville, as I'm sure everybody knows, and Gather Greenville operates 75 hours a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. right outside our front doors. I mean, literally closer than my car is parked in the parking lot. So that's a big problem for families with school-age kids and people who work day jobs. It's just not a good fit. Gather Greenville is also designed to serve 450 people from 13 food vendors on a rotating basis. If you think about this, this would mean 450 people could be served daily. And that's 2,700 people served weekly. And that's 140,000 people served over a year, which means that it's going to feel like an onslaught to the neighborhood. It doesn't belong in a residential neighborhood. It's just not a good fit. Gather Greenville averages 12 to 20 hours of live music every week. 12 to 20 hours. That's 4 to 5 hours of music 4 days a week that is inescapable. Can't open your window for fresh air. You can't take a nap. You maybe can't work with your child outside on your porch or your patio trying to get something done with them. I personally don't think Midtown Avenue is equipped to handle the volume of traffic that would be expected, potentially creating a situation where there's always a line to get in and out of our little community. And additionally, I would be concerned that attendees who can't find easy parking, which I don't think parking is going to be easy, they're going to double park in our neighborhood on our Midtown streets, and that's a problem when we need a police or fire response, a really big safety issue. Based on the factors of vehicular and foot traffic, operating hours, parking issues, potential noise intrusion, and safety issues, I think the proposed Gather project will not allow Midtown community townhouse owners the very basic right of quiet enjoyment of their homes. That's a basic right when you buy a home. It's written into your contract, the basic enjoyment, the quiet enjoyment of your home. This is not quiet enjoyment. It's got to be relocated. And I support the idea of Gather Mount Pleasant. I actually think it would be a great thing for Mount Pleasant, but it can't be put literally a stone's throw from places where people are trying to sleep, work. nap, live. It's just an inappropriate location. So I ask you to certainly keep the idea on the table, but find a better place for it. Find some place where it can manage all that traffic and find some place where it doesn't hurt your residents. Thank you.
Mike Tinky?
Mike Tinky, 208 Venning Street, Mount Pleasant. I urge you to vote in favor of the pilot noise ordinance. I would like to thank the members of the Police, Judicial, and Legal Committee, the PJL, Mayor Will Haney, Town Council members G.M. Whitley, Howard Chapman, and Carl Ritchie, and assisted by staff and citizen input for a thoughtful, collaborative, studied, deliberative process of over 5 months before sending the pilot ordinance to the full council for consideration. Thanks to the PJL committee taking time, the ordinance has gone from the noisy 7 worst noise ordinances of 46 towns, counties, and cities in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia when first proposed to the tranquil 10. The ordinance seeks to ensure balance between commercial and residential interests so the fellow citizens have a right and should be ensured of an environment free of excessive sound, understanding that excessive sound is a serious hazard to public health, welfare, safety, and quality of life. Noise, water, and air quality are part of the reasons we live in the town of Mount Pleasant, and we sincerely appreciate when the town leaders and staff set high expectations and legal standards for their protection. Input studies and research included, but was not limited to, comparative noise ordinances of 46 towns, counties, and cities in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, noise studies for comparable towns, noise research from trusted sources such as the American Academy of Audiology, Urban Land Institute, OSHA, WHO, EPA, CDC, and more. Also, decibel readings were taken by the Mount Pleasant Police Department, and we appreciate that so much, and going around the town, understanding what the noise is in the town in different places, and appreciate the committee doing the same. We also had significant public comment over this time from multiple people. We recommend the pilot be not more than 90 days, and we thank you again for your consideration and urge that you vote for the pilot ordinance so that we can work towards a final noise ordinance that will set Mount Pleasant as a national standard for noise quality, and it will be the tranquil 10, maybe the tranquil 1. So thank you so much.
Chris Coleman?
Chris Coleman, 118 Pitt Street. First thing I want to say is I was humbled by what I saw today in this chamber with the Holocaust Memorial and those fine athletes. They remind all of us what's actually important and what makes this town great. I do want to thank all of you, as you've heard before, for your hard work on the noise ordinance. I appreciate your consideration of it, and I appreciate your leadership on it. But I also know that a lot of you are probably sitting in your chairs going, what's that 55 thing doing in there? Why is it important? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about why start at 55. Well, first, it's a pilot program. We want to see how this works. Let's adjust it as need be. I understand if it turns out not to be the level both day and night that we want to see. But when you start with a single number like that, you put a lot of pressure on that single number so that at night, when you're asleep, you don't want to hear a 65 decibel blower in your yard. You just don't want to hear that. A number that high you could. So you have to start with a single number on the low side. It's also the number that shows about what the research says is a peaceful number. 55 is generally regarded as peaceful. It's the same thing that World Health Organization says is a noise that can trigger above that elevated blood pressure and heart attacks. That's more than 55 decibels. The science says it's not really particularly good for you. So let's also look at some of the alternatives that were considered, mostly 65 decibels. Let's remember that decibels are a logarithmic scale, so that 65 is 10 times louder than 55. It's not 10 points, it's 10 times louder. EPA drafted a neat little chart that explained the differences between 50 and 60 and 65. At 55, nobody complains and you don't get sued. At 60, about 20% are, quote, extremely annoyed and thinking about suing. At 65 decibels, you're looking at about 35% of the people who are extremely annoyed by a noise level like that. The other way to judge that is simply by the fact that 65 is loud enough that if you were in a room with that as a background noise, you would have a hard time talking over the person next to you. You would have a hard time, you would have to raise your voice. It would not be something that you would find pleasant in your life. So I think that that's probably inappropriate. Thank you so much for your time, and again, I appreciate very much what you've done.
Louis Horton?
Louis Horton, 138 Live Oak Drive. I want to commend everybody that's spoken on behalf of this proposed ordinance and urge you to adopt it. I'll just tell you, this past Saturday, it was the noisiest I have ever heard. I found out there was a band playing over in the parking lot of Saltwater Cowboy. I called my next door neighbor, Eric Fornell, who spoke last time there was a committee hearing on this, and he called the police, and like 15 minutes later they shut it down. But it was just truly awful. And I spoke with Jimmy Bagwell today. He lives up on Vincent Drive, which must be a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile away, and he had to attend his son's baseball game today, grandson's. But he said he wished he could come because he didn't normally hear what went on at Shem Creek, but he said Saturday was the exception. He said he wished he could be here to speak also. So I would just urge you to adopt this pilot program, and let's see how it works for the good and tranquility of the old village. Thank you very much.
McClay Frank?
Hey, I just want to thank you guys for your time. I've sent some emails already and have heard actually back and was really excited because I didn't think that would happen. So thank you guys. I feel like you're doing a good job. I also live in Midtown, the Lennar community. The Gather project, I think, is the entrance and exit is going to be through our community, which we honestly pretty much weekly get parked into our garage because somebody can't find a parking spot and thinks they'll park there. So, you know, that's without any event space there. So I think that will be a really big problem. If the entrance and exit could be off Midtown, that would really help for safety, for traffic, just accessibility. I mean, I think also if there's going to be a music venue, we just moved here from Nashville and we had one in our backyard basically, and it was fun the first night, and then the second night it was getting old, and then, you know, by the fifth night it was like, we really need to go to bed. So I think that also is maybe ill-conceived in that location. So, I mean, I think something could go there, but I'm hoping that you guys can help protect our quality of life and just keep an eye on what it'll be. Thank you.
Tim Cook? Thank you. Dwight Baker?
Good evening. I live at 2190 Annie Laura Lane, which is right behind the trash that the city collects and the service department. 7 years ago, I used to power wash my house once every 2 years. Now I do it twice a year just from the dust and the debris from the trash. And we would like to see the city propose to move that trash pile on the other side of the street and put their new city offices on our backyard instead of vice versa. The other side of the street is where they have the trash dumps right now and the fuel pumps, but that's a commercial area. It would move it from the residential area over to the business area. And besides that, most municipalities don't even burn their trash or even make that dust. They truck it out to the dump somewhere. And this has been a problem for quite a while. And it doesn't cost them any more money because you own the land anyhow. We're just asking you to reverse your plans. Put the offices in our backyard, take the trash out of our backyard and put it on the other side of the street. That ought to be pretty bad, pretty easy because you don't have to get more land. And it seems like a slam dunk. And that's all I got to say. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
That's all I have signed up, Mayor.
Okay. If there is no one else for public comment, yes, sir.
Perry Rourke, 2004 Brick Kiln Parkway. Thank you, council, for the 2.5 minutes tonight. Much appreciated. Maybe next month you do 3 to make it easier almost to tomorrow with that clock. So it might be easier just to go that route. The town of Mount Pleasant currently has a historical commission in place, historical district preservation commission, planning commission, and a cultural arts and pride commission, just to name a few. All of you received an email in regards to the proposal of a recreation advisory commission, and we have received back, I think, responses from 4 council members, and we appreciate your response on that. Love to hear feedback from the other members of council about this proposal. We would simply ask that a member of council please request that this Recreation Advisory Commission formation be placed on the next Health, Recreation, and Advisories Committee meeting and also on the next town council agenda, so it could get discussed further. Excuse me. Thank you all very much.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Jeff Fetterman. I'm also a resident of Midtown Lennar community. I moved to South Carolina and specifically to Mount Pleasant this past August, and I moved here for the wonderful community that we have seen so far. Unfortunately, as some folks had said, we were not informed by Lennar or the developer of what was planned when we moved in. In fact, all the maps that we were shown didn't have any easements on them. And when we asked realtors who are working for Lennar about that, it was never disclosed. I personally spent over $600,000 on a townhouse that will look at trash receptacles that are about twice the distance that you are from me right now from my second-story balcony. That's really going to impact our home values for the entire neighborhood. It's going to have the ability to have rats and other pests in our homes and our front doors. I have a disabled wife. I was told that we were unable to get a handicap parking spot because we have a garage. However, if my wife wants to park in the street today, there is 1 spot. There may be 2 more that are supposed to be added, but if our streets are shared with a facility that's going to have people going every single day to restaurants and bars, those parking spots won't be available. The roads and the streets were presented to us as roads for the community. There is nobody else who goes in and out. They're already crowded with MUSC parkers parking in our neighborhood as well and on the streets. When we had to recently leave our neighborhood to have the streets painted and the parking painted, there were not enough parking spots on Midtown for the residents. The other thing I would ask is that before you would move forward with this, that you would really open this up for more public comment. I personally wasn't aware that this was taking place because the Homeowners Association has not communicated with homeowners unless they were knowledgeable enough to know that they had to go and sign up to be communicated with. They found me to ask for me to sign up for automated payment. However, they didn't find me to let me know that this was being built on my doorstep. And that is true of the majority of homeowners. We also have a tremendous number of rentals that are in our community, and so those renters are unaware of what's going on as well. Matter of fact, when they were painting lines on the parking lots, they had to abandon it. It's not finished because the HOA wasn't able to communicate effectively with the people to move their cars. So I would just ask you to please look at getting public comment on this before it goes further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes public comment. Yes, sir, one more. 2.5 minutes. Name and address, please.
Forgive me, they're not prescription. I also live at Midtown. My name is Dave Firm. The concerns I have are the lack of separation between Midtown townhomes and the proposed Midtown Gather, parking and traffic. I also, like Rick said, think there should be a nice architectural fence and landscaping so that we don't feel like we're part of the commercial development. My front door is as close as you, to the entry point, which they will have at the back of the room. Parking's already an issue. If people can't find a spot, they park in the alley. This blocks the neighbors from entering or leaving their garages, blocks trash and recycling trucks, and even one time an ambulance. Lennar and HTA have an easement to use our parking spots and a curb cut that will allow all traffic to flow in and out of our residential neighborhood. The developer wants to add over 30 more parking spots directly in front of us and use our current spots for their patrons. Although we had asked when we purchased our home about the piece of land, as we faced it directly, we were never told about such an easement. Even yesterday, trucks and trailers, as they can all attest to, were blocking the streets so you couldn't pull into any parking spaces. There are around 20 office space units, 7 eateries, a brewery, conference space, 9 retail outlets, along with hotel units, all planned on one parcel. The developer needs all of this parking because of the size and scope of this project. I'm sure if it was a bit smaller, he could do this without negatively impacting its neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I believe that's it. All right, this moves us to item 7, which is consent agenda items. There are no consent agenda items this evening. Section 8 is planning new business.
Move to approve items 1 to 3.
I'm sorry?
Motion to approve items 8A 1 to 3.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve all 3 together in a second. These are all annexations which were unanimously voted on at committee. Any discussion on these annexations? Is there no comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
That's first readings of ordinance numbers 22023, 22024, and 22025.
This brings us to item 4, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This request came from Planning Commission with a recommendation for approval. It's to rezone a property from R1 Low Density Residential District to RC2, which is our Rural Conservation District zoning. This came in under an automatic zoning when we still had R1 as the automatic zoning when you came in.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion. Take your pick for the second, whoever you heard first. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just invite all members of council, which I did for our committee, to go look at what we're getting out at, on Rosebud. It's a beautiful area, and it's just a great thing. It's taken a while to get off the ground, but what's been built out there is just fabulous.
All right. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
First reading, ordinance number 22026.
And item 4 was the last for new business. That moves us to old business. Stop me if I'm wrong. I'm famous for
No.
skipping items. All right.
No, we're moving fast tonight. This is for final reading, however,
Move
the
to approve.
applicant has
Second.
requested.
Oh, wait, sorry, there's
deferral.
the
Yeah.
deferral. Motion to deferral, sorry.
Yeah.
Second.
This is for the annexation. The zoning for this was denied at first reading. This would be final reading for the annexation, and they have asked for a deferral.
Got it. We have a motion to defer. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to defer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion is deferred. Or deferraled, if that's what we're saying tonight. All right.
I
Item
appreciate
2.
the energy. This last one here is an ordinance to amend the Code
Move to
Subtract
approve.
PD.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. I understand that this is a clerical correction. There's no material change to this.
Yeah,
use
this
or-
is a text amendment to the PD to match an already approved plan. It's really kind of a cleanup to match their approved plan.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved.
Final reading, ordinance number 22022.
Thank you.
You got off light tonight, Ms. Reed. All right. Thank you very much. This brings us to Section 9, Committee Action Items, and A is Economic Development Committee discussion and possible action related to use of the town's property on Faison Road. Who's going to lead us through this? All right. Committee Chair?
I will. Let's see, the Economic Development Committee of Council met on April 4th, 2022.
to discuss possible action regarding the town's property on Faison Road. Staff has received inquiries about the property in recent weeks and needs council direction regarding plans for the property. The committee voted unanimously to forward the matter to full council for discussion and input on possible uses and/or plans for the property.
Okay. So are we?
Wait.
No.
Yeah, we just want a direction of where we should proceed, if we need to have the property evaluated or have discussion about if we're going to move forward with using it or
Are
developing.
we free to discuss without a motion?
Yes, sir. I think in this instance, this element is labeled discussion and possible action.
All right, Mr. Santos.
Yes, you know, we've talked about this piece of property for a while, and I would certainly like to see us, either us develop it into some recreation fields, or, you know, allow somebody else to maybe do a long-term lease on it and have them develop it into recreation fields. We need fields, we need them badly, and that area there would be a fantastic place to put some rectangle fields, as well as even, we saw one plan that showed where the YMCA and the senior center would also be built above there, so then surrounded by recreation fields. I think there's a lot of good uses for that, but certainly we're in dire need of recreation fields for our growing community, and I think whatever we do, we need to include fields into that piece of property.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, during our retreat, I mentioned that this might be a good place also for housing for those people who cannot afford housing in town. It is also property that was purchased for economic development to the tune of over $6 million. So I think we need to take a look at the proposals that have been submitted to the town. I think we need to take a look at the long-term lease idea. But I really think we need to take a look at housing for all and see if they're willing to work with us to get some reduced price housing for employees.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Corley.
Mayor, I think we had a really good discussion during our retreat, and I'll just echo my statements from that time, which is, you know, there's a report that got floated around or emailed to council, and it was interesting. It was about how do big towns, how are they able to keep that small town feeling and that quality of life? And one of the things that they did mention was those big towns, and we're not the only ones that are doing a great job of that, but they're buying land and creating green space and giving a place for water to go. And I don't know if you guys have been out to Faison Road, but that is turned into just a nightmare of cement and apartments and condos. And I think it would be such a beautiful gift to our residents and the town to just be able to keep that area as green space. I mean, we need trees. They're the ones, we're breathing because of them. And the more trees, the better. And I think that's a beautiful space for that. And a great investment, by the way.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Of course, I appreciate the comments.
Check your microphone, please.
Sorry. How about now?
There
I've
you
never
go.
been accused of being too quiet. I appreciate the comments and the suggestions by my fellow council members, but I'd be remiss if I didn't share some of the comments that I received from constituents. I think there may be an opportunity to do something that benefits all. And I keep hearing, we hear the recreation fields, we hear the housing, the green space, and then I've had many approach me about something with the arts. I think there's an opportunity for at least some exploration and a little more study about how could we do a true mix that benefits all of our citizens, not just a certain portion of them. So then maybe there's going to be an opportunity, and our staff could tell us, to have citizen input or more input where you have these public hearings like we have now, maybe not quite as formal, but I'm looking for something where we hear from our citizens what they're looking forward to and their ideas. It's their land at the end of the day, and that we're here stewards of it, trying to make the best we can for it. So just want to share that.
Yes.
Sorry.
You have the floor.
So obviously, we discussed this in economic development. I would like to see some more rectangular fields and some recreation space, but we haven't finished Rifle Range Road yet. So I'd like to see Rifle Range Road finished first. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Carolina Park Phases 3 and 4, I believe, today. I think that land, I envision, I'm Mr. Hip, I'm using the hip word. I'm envisioning something really cool, something that our citizens can go to, that can incorporate green space, incorporate economic development. I'd like to know how we could get a little bit better of a vision. Maybe staff can create something where it shows outdoor space, small amphitheater, it shows restaurants, it shows trail. I'm squeezing a lot in 36 acres, I think, so. But something that gives the citizens somewhere to go out there, and I believe they discussed, and Mr. DeMora, you can tell me exactly what they said. But when they talked about the economic development study, they needed more of an anchor. We needed somewhere for people to go. They didn't have a problem with us developing something, but there needed to be more of anchor tenants and things for people to do. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. What I recall the consultant saying at
Sorry,
the
I put you on the
retreat-
face. Up on.
What I recall the consultant mentioning at the retreat was that the site had potential for economic development, but it was missing these are my words, not his, a hospitality feature that would attract such interest to the property.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Whitley.
I like the idea of green space. I like the idea of some affordable housing. But I also think one of the things that's coming up on the agenda, or not on this agenda, but eventually in the coming months, is the rec referendum. And that, because any development of this property that's going to take town funds, we don't have the funds to do. We don't have the funds to build out Rifle Range Park. We don't have the funds to build out Faison Road. But one of the things that I think could actually be really neat for this property, and something that I've been hearing as a need in the community, is something for teens. I think that there's a lot of, we've seen some posts on some of the mommy groups of teens just kind of getting in trouble because there's not enough for them, there's not a place for them to go. And there's been asks for like a skate, like an old-timey skate rink. And the problem with something like that is that it takes up such a large footprint that with the rents in Mount Pleasant the way they are, it's hard for that to be something that just exists. We had one, and we had a bowling alley, and it failed because it just couldn't afford to stay there. The community it wasn't supported enough by the community. But that is something that I think is lacking in our community and could be a really positive thing to just shoehorn one more thing onto Mr. Icofano's plans for the land. But I think a space for teens would be great.
One more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Ms. Corley.
So I just want everybody to remember that we don't have the money right now. We've got other stuff we're working on, and I don't see why we need to rush and do anything with that property. It's sitting there. It's adding in value every single week. It seems like it's a great investment, and when we're ready, we move on it, but I don't understand the rush to action, I guess.
I believe there's a rush to action because there's a wetlands permit on the, because we're filling in land in like Carolina Park, like Mount Pleasant is damp. So I think in order to build on this land, we have to fill, and that's going to take some money to do that.
So, and on that same point, right, it is gonna, anything you guys are talking about, you're talking parking lots, and you're talking fill, and build, and I'll be quiet.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chapman.
Councilmember Corley, I think the issue is we have received letters of interest from people who would like to make an offer to us. And I think that's why it got on the agenda for economic development. Staff has received these letters of interest. they want to know how to answer these people. You know, we've got citizens who have said they would have a plan to use this property. Do we want to allow them to do it or not? And that's really how it got on the economic development agenda.
Mr. Ickfon?
And I don't think we're asking to use any of our money. I think, here's the land. Guide us, I mean, we can pay people to help guide us to what should go there, what should be built, what we should be recruiting, but we're not putting a dime into it. We're actually trying to bring money in by leasing the land, and getting the citizens back some of their money that we paid for it.
But I think one of the,
You have the floor.
You're good.
one of the options that some people were talking about were rectangular fields, and that would involve money or any sort of reports or hiring somebody to figure out what to do with that. That also costs quite a bit of money. I just hate to throw money at that when there's no rush to do anything.
Let's talk about time. I'm sorry, Mr. Rambo.
No, you go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
We'll come back to you real quick. Those wetlands disturbance permits expire in 2025?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In government time, that's a real short time, right? I mean, you got to figure out lots of things and have lots of studies and lots of input and all that. If the private sector were to use it, that's what the private sector does, right? They act more quickly. Can we sort of agree on not what we're going to do with it, but a timetable for making some decisions? Because every day that we wait, we're closer to those wetlands permits expiring. There are different opinions of those, but we do have a letter from someone we hired who said they thought under the new guidelines that the vast majority of this property would then be considered wetlands, and to not count on getting those, and don't let me misspeak here, to not bet your money that those are going to be renewed. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. So we need to decide one way or the other. My question is which committee, because of everything I heard, economic development was really not one of the ideas that council members are talking about. Yes.
Well, actually, I think economic development, there's opportunity there as well. We all had a meeting, or we're about to have meetings with Mr. Donato of the people who purchased Town Center, and one of the things they have there is incubator spaces for new businesses where it's a percentage of sales type of lease, and they get 1 year to kind of establish themselves. I mean, you could create something like that to support small business in Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm. So can we kind of have a consensus going forward that we will do this through the Economic Development Committee and keep that on the agenda and come back when you think we have a recommendation or some ideas?
Are there not
Hang on just a second. Yes, ma'am?
We can do that. One thing I've asked before is if the town has like a topography of the property. Like, is there a part of the property that's higher than another where we might compromise and develop some piece of it and leave some green? I mean, I hear we're kind of torn with what we want, and I'd feel better about it if there was some high ground that we wouldn't have to fill as much, that we may benefit from economically. So where would we get something like that?
We have that.
Okay,
It's been
because
part of our package.
I've wanted to see it, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We have that document. Happy to share it with you. In general, the property is high up front, flows to the back. And so any type of development would be up front towards the road.
I promised Mr. Rambo was next, and then Mr. Ickfon. Did you, and then Ms. Santo, all right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that when I hear feedback from people just in general about the town, they just feel like overall too many trees have been cut down. There's been too much development. So for us as elected officials to then take this low-lying land that is, if it was reclassified right now, would mostly be just jurisdictional wetlands and fill it in to build something is sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but it doesn't seem right to me. And so I don't think we have to develop every portion of Mount Pleasant. Let's just let the wildlife and trees have some space.
Mr. Ickfon.
Well, it's hard to follow that up. You set me up for failure. So is there not companies out there that will propose space for us? I mean, it's Mount Pleasant. This is a great place. People want to do business here. Will companies not bring their proposals to us on what they feel without it costing a dime? I mean, I would think people would be lined out the door.
I think you have two options to go that route. One would be to put out an RFQ with a cost component of revenue. And inside of that request for qualifications, we can specify what uses we'd like to see as a town.
Right.
And let them come back with a proposal, like I said, that contains a cost component. That's one. The other thing you can do is to formulate, this is happening less in the United States, but in other places around the world, you formulate your own development board of people who are selected and expert in certain areas that are able to, based on what you'd like to see on the property, extract from the property the maximum public value on that property.
Costing us $0 with no promises to
So
anybody.
the property would pay for itself based on whatever was developed on it.
No promises, $0, correct?
That's the concept.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Santos, yes.
Yeah, just briefly. I know when we ran last year at many of the forums, they asked us what would we do to bring revenue to the town without raising taxes. And when it came to me, I recommended that we have more tournaments. Tournaments generate hospitality tax, sales tax, accommodations tax. We already have the facilities. We already have the people cutting the grass. Our great public service employees take good care of our fields. But that was a way to generate revenue without having any real expenses for the town. So when I mentioned having fields out there at this facility, this also, to me, brings a lot of revenue to the town. And plus, we have green space. I heard somebody say green space, certainly fields are green space. I heard somebody say we need to keep our kids busy. Well, clearly, ball fields, whether they're soccer, lacrosse, rugby, or flag football or whatever, is the things that kids love to do and would keep them busy. So that's why I think turning that into a facility, and not just, it doesn't have to be the whole facility, but like I said, we met and we talked with the YMCA folks, we talked with the senior center folks about the possibility of having something out there for them as well. So you're really encompassing our youth, and our seniors, as well as people who are less fortunate that that would go to places like YMCA and things like that as well. So that's why I brought up the idea of doing something like that, because I think it encompasses a lot more than, and not only that, but generates a tremendous amount of income for the town, revenue for the town, without having to raise taxes.
All right, I don't see anybody else wanting to speak. Do we have a consensus? I don't think we need to vote, Mr. Pagliarini, but that this will be handled through the Economic Development Committee. Please put it on the agenda for the upcoming meetings and seek input however we can.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Does that pretty much sum that up? Yes, sir, Mr.
Can I
Brandler.
ask just a question procedurally? So if the Economic Development Committee felt like we should put out a RFQ or whatever, would that have to then go back to full council, or could Economic Development Committee just vote on that?
It seems to me, sir, that the less that economic development is incorporated into whatever may be out there, the more perhaps the item should be at Finance Committee because of its broad scope.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense? As
Yeah.
Chair of Finance Committee?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've kind of agreed where we're going, and that we need, with the time running out, we need to make decisions as soon as we can after we've gotten a reasonable amount of input. All right? We'll move on to item B, Health, Recreation, and Events Committee, approval to fund Carolina Park Recreation Complex Phase 4.
Is this a motion?
Huh?
Is this discussion or a motion?
This is coming from the committee, so it will be a motion from the committee that does not require a second.
Go ahead. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Oh, okay, well, the Health and Recreation and Events Committee recommends to council approval to fund Carolina Park 4 minus the passive park and trail with funds from the unrestricted fund balance to be completed along with Phase 3, which is scheduled to break ground this summer. So,
That is a motion from
A
committee.
motion
It does
from
not
committee.
require a second, and we are in discussion. Would you like to? What's that?
What's the total dollar amount for that?
I can answer that question. The project itself is $4 million. However, there is a savings, economies of scale, if you move forward the project now of about $250,000. Also not incorporated in this Phase 4, the original Phase 4, is the development of the passive parks, which will save you another $500,000. So it'll end up being roughly about 3.25 to proceed with this from unreserved fund balance.
Is the trail staying in the plan?
It'd have to be done later.
Do we not think it's better to just do it now, since we're out there? I mean, are we saving? I mean,
Well-
are we saving or not saving? Is it better just to be done with the park, or?
It's up to you. The hard
Right.
part is your unreserved fund balance is, you'll be hitting it for over 3.
Okay,
You still have some remaining, but we have an outstanding judgment that's pretty significant out there that could impact it at some point. So unless council feels the passive park is a requirement, then I'd ask that you hold on that for right now.
and what is the passive park? I know you.
Yeah, so, so the passive park, the reason it costs $500,000 is that it essentially was gonna be like a 6 or 7 foot wide asphalt trail through the woods between the Carolina Park Complex and the airport, essentially. And so, discussion at the committee level was that, we just didn't know that a singular use trail like that, where people just drive to a random park to walk a trail, was necessarily what people are looking for, as well as just concerns with wanting to get this project done because it's such a big need, but keeping as much of our fund balance intact as we can. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah.
Any other discussion? Right, the motion is from committee to use this approximately $3.2 million of fund balance to fund Carolina Park Recreation Complex Phase 4 minus the passive park portion. Boy, that's passive park portion. All right. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That will be wonderful. This moves us to item C, Human Resources Committee. Yes, ma'am.
So as you all know, we as council have 2 employees, right? The town manager and our town council. So I think we have done a great job of evaluating the town manager every year. This will be the first year, next year will be the first year that we actually evaluate legal counsel. HR committee and our HR head, Christy DeLuca, have been working on this for months, and we have finally created a tool that we feel would give council a rubric to work throughout the year. And I just think it would be, I mean, everybody has a right to an evaluation and to know how they're doing at their job. So I have emailed everybody a copy of the form. I haven't heard from anybody, so I'm assuming it's all good.
I
David
sent
has
you an
taken a
email
look
today.
at it. I'm sorry?
I sent you an email
Oh,
today.
you did, I'm sorry. My bad. So at this point, I move we create the policy that the town of Mount Pleasant will perform annual evaluations of the town administrator and general counsel positions in February and March.
Second.
Respectively, and around budget time.
Okay. Is that from the committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, didn't require a second, but we have a booster second, if you need a booster second there. All right. So is there any discussion? All right,
Good job.
I think it's an outstanding job. All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you very much. Item D, Police, Judicial, and Legal Committee.
Move to approve the implementation of a 90-day noise ordinance pilot program.
Second.
Thank you very much. Motion and second. This did come out of our committee. Notice that this is a trial date. There will be no fines. There will be no citations. This is to see if we can make a 55 decibel level, and it is worded to be from the property of the person making the complaint. And one thing we do need, I believe, is a start date. Could it be assumed that that would be, should we make it the end of this month?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Council. So everyone is aware what was discussed at committee was providing some notice to the public. And my suggestion is to allow staff to get some notice out there and for our police department to prepare to make it May 1st, I think would be appropriate. Also, for the benefit of council and public and those folks who spoke tonight, as the mayor said, this is not implementation of penalties. This is essentially a data gathering time period to which we can arm our police department with the knowledge that is in the ordinance so that they can address noise complaints according to our current ordinance, but also understand what our new ordinance is going to look like and how it will be enforced. Our hope is that by the end of this period, we can come back to council with information related to the decibel level, with the exceptions, as well as the measurements and the like. So hopefully that will be the case, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So
about
should
the
we
ordinance.
include in the motion beginning May 1st?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, including beginning of May 1st.
All right. And second, okay. I just want to add that I said this at committee, and I've been saying this publicly. Had I not gone out with the decibel meter and gone to one of the Shem Creek establishments, and it doesn't matter which one, where the music, when we were there, was about 90 on the decibel meter, and I was with Officer Darren Rayleigh, and he said, let's go down this way on the dock, and let's see what it registers. And we got down there, and from 90 at the speaker to about 100 yards away, and I said, I think we're about 60 yards away. And then I realized he's a trained sniper. He knows yardage. He said it was 100, it's 100. So it was 100 yards. Nothing between us but water and air, and it was not hitting 55. And that was plenty loud enough. This was Southeastern Wildlife Weekend. So it was rocking and rolling. And 100 yards away, it was not even at 55. So the concern, though, and the reason we felt we need to do a trial period is, we might get, when the word gets out that it's 55, we might get inundated with calls about leaf blowers or neighbors cranking up their car or kids jumping in swimming pool and screaming and stuff. And let's the Bob Bremer test, what problem are we trying to solve? We are trying to eliminate the noise that keeps you from that quiet enjoyment of your property that you are guaranteed by law. We're hoping 55 works, but before we pass something and then get it wrong and have to pass it again and do all this again, let's do a trial period and see how it works. Chief, do you agree? You have background in this.
Did you want to speak first?
Oh, no, go for it, yeah.
I appreciate it, and first of all, I want to thank our police department, and again, as you said, being a former police chief, I can appreciate the need for something to be measurable in order to be enforceable. And I think that's something we had lacked before, and I think that this is, hopefully Chief will come back to us and let us know this is what he needs for his men and women to do their job. I also appreciate all the community input as well as our business input. We've heard from everybody. I think now's the time. It's time to go ahead and quit talking about it. And I think the 90-day trial period is appropriate. And I think this will give us all an opportunity to see if it works, try it on. And I heard you say something about blowers and lawnmowers. I believe, if I'm correct, sir, there's an exception that we already have in our ordinance that's in there for those type of things during regular hours where you can have the non-quiet hours, if you will. I just want to say, too, because I've got a lot of emails and correspondences, calls, that this council is against outdoor music at our bars, restaurants. Absolutely not true. I told you earlier, spoke to many of you, I would never vote for something that would harm our businesses. I believe we have to strike that balance between those who want to join their back porches and those who want to enjoy the dock. Right. And I think we're going to come to that, hopefully with this decibel level. Whether it stays at 55 or it goes up a little bit, we'll see. So I just want to make sure that was on record, that no one that I know of is wanting to harm any of our businesses. We're just looking to strike that balance. I look forward to hearing back from the chief and others with the date in 90 days, and we'll hopefully make our adjustments then and finally get an ordinance. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Whitley.
Yes, so, we've been kicking around this noise ordinance for a long time, and it's gone through many iterations to get to the point where it is. And at the meeting, I just felt, we needed this pilot program, so I proposed that we do I think I proposed 180 days, and the mayor got me down to 90, or maybe I proposed 30, I can't remember. But I think the one concern I have, and we did change it to 55 based on the mayor's experience, and I know Mr. Icofano's also gone out and done the decibel meters. I am a little concerned that it might be too low, because we do have to strike that balance between what is good for the community and what is good for our businesses, and especially when you live in an area that is adjacent to a commercial zone that you chose to live there. So I think that this pilot is going to give us a lot of good data, and we will be able to make a very solid decision and an ordinance that withstands the test of time. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rambo.
I guess this is a question for the committee members, but when I read through the ordinance, the one thing I'm just most surprised about is why there's not a different decibel level for the daytime versus the nighttime. I mean, I just 100% agree that 50, 55 is appropriate, at night, but during the day, it's very different. 2 o'clock on a Saturday is very different than 11:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. And so that's kind of where I'm struggling a little bit, as well as the unintended consequences. I know, like, leaf blowers is exempt on here, but, what about kids jumping in the pool? What about kids dribbling a basketball? I mean, I would hope that their neighbors wouldn't complain about that, but there's somebody out there that will. And so I just have a lot of concerns about that decibel level during the daytime. Another example, if you live near Wando or Beckham, you will hear the band practice in the afternoons, and it might be more than 55 decibels at your property line. Do we write the school district a ticket? I don't know. I know this is a pilot program, but I'm just kind of, it seems like a great number at nighttime, but during the daytime, it seems a little unrealistic.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, if the restaurants don't have an exact number, how are they going to know how loud they are down the street? That was a concern I had. It's like,
Say that again?
if we don't designate a decibel level on site at the restaurant, how are they going to know how loud they are down the road? It's going to be really hard for them. I mean, this makes sense. We want to know how loud it is at the residence, but how will they know? They'll just have to check for themselves. I mean,
I can only speak from my perspective. Going out and doing it, it doesn't matter. This is my opinion. I'm not speaking for law enforcement, but it really doesn't matter what it is at the site, at the point of origin. What matters is how it affects other people, and the only way to really know how to do it is to measure it from the person who says they're being affected. That's the only thing I can say about that. Yeah.
it's true that that's how what makes it offensive is once it reaches the other person. But I just wonder how they're going to monitor themselves. I mean, how will they know that they're bothering somebody a mile away?
Right. I agree.
You know, it'd be easier if they know we've got to stay at 60 or 70 and you know, it'll just be easier for them to control if they know where to go.
Mr. Chapman.
I happen to have been on the committee, and I really commend all of my fellow committee members for our efforts to try to please everybody. You're never going to do that, but the idea about having a trial period makes sense. The one thing that has not come out tonight is that this is not just Shem Creek. This is not just one place within the community. It could be Queensboro, where we've got loud music. It could be Ion, where we've got loud music, and we've had some complaints from Ion. So for everybody hearing us tonight, this is not just Shem Creek. It's other areas that have amplified music. Could be Shell. Could be a number of places. So everybody needs to understand that we're trying to look out for the entire community, not just Shem Creek.
Right. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Corley.
Just a question. So is the plan to go back and look at it in 90 days and maybe adjust it with times?
Yes, including times, including the level and all of that. We just felt that the committee felt, and I'll say it was unanimous, that one number for the whole day, for the whole time, is the number that we can justify is your quiet enjoyment of your property. And if we find that it needs to be delineated between day and night, we still have that option.
Okay.
So that's not been ruled out, yeah. Yes, sir, Mr. Icahn.
I've had a decibel reader going the whole time, so.
Been
we-
interesting.
Yeah, we've hit, I'm hitting 74 right now. But I'm glad it's a trial, so that's the good news. I mean, what we're discussing is a trial. We're not really voting on anything right now, so that's good. How are we going to be gathering data? Is this complaint-driven data? Are we sending more people out over the 90 days, or how much work are we giving you? Oh, okay, so we are sending,
So anytime we get noise complaints, we're gonna take readings, and we'll most likely do additional.
we're doing some proactive, not just reactive data gathering? Okay, well, that's good. I'm a little skeptical on the 9 PM on the weekends. I'm definitely skeptical on 55 during the day, like you said, but this is data gathering, so there's nothing to that. I am a little scared of having people in my backyard. When I went out and measured, 70 decibels is pretty quick. That's a 10 top at a restaurant, 70 decibels. So, but it's data gathering, so I guess we'll see what happens. And it stops, we don't have to, we'll have 90 days, and then we'll have time to delineate all the information. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I know you talked about communication, but, and we wanted time for this to be able to be communicated with folks, but how do we, I just want to make sure we emphasize the fact that this is not an actual ordinance where if some random person calls the police on your kid playing outside and it's more than 55 decibels that you're going to get a $500 fine. I'm really concerned about the perception of it because that's the way most people are going to read it. I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to answer that for you.
Please.
Our officers have discretion. All police officers have discretion, and that discretion would be used. I think I speak for the chief on that. He's the chief. I don't think you got to worry about a child bouncing a basketball.
There's the news station right now. We are gathering data.
This is
Got
not an
that?
ordinance.
Do you have that? Okay.
This is not an ordinance. This is a trial period so that we can balance the quality of life that we love, the outdoor nightlife on the coast, and we love our quality of life of quiet enjoyment at home, and we're trying to find that sweet spot, and we've been at it for months now. So we do have a motion. We have a second. The start date would be the 1st of May. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. This brings us to item 10, council new business. Item A is first reading of the ordinance to adopt and appropriate a budget for the town of Mount Pleasant for fiscal year 2023.
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. This is what was the subject of our public hearing with the numbers that you see there. Ms. Kotava, thank you for coming forward. Do we need to hear from her, or do we just want to vote?
Vote.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Does anyone have any questions during discussion? All right, thank you. All in favor of the motion, and this is first reading. We will finalize this down the way after we make some tweaks to the budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading is approved.
First reading, ordinance number 22027.
Item number 2, adoption of a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Mount Pleasant Waterworks and the town of Mount Pleasant. Yes, sir, Mr. Rambo is
Well,
committee chair.
first, I guess, a motion to approve.
Second.
Yep.
Okay. Just some background on this. We do have a great working relationship with Mount Pleasant Waterworks. Our agreement did expire last year. We did a 1-year renewal while a new agreement could be negotiated, which I know Mr. Demora and Mr. Alan Clum is here, who's the general manager of Mount Pleasant Waterworks. They met a number of times, hammered out some details, and have reached an agreement that both of them are happy with, and that's what has been brought to you today.
All right, we have a motion and a second, which is to approve. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve this resolution of the memorandum of understanding, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Resolution 22041.
All right, so when we amended the agenda, we moved items 10A, 3, 4, and 5 into item C. Item B, there is no old business. This would move us into item C, executive session. If there is a motion, we would be going into executive session for discussion and possible approval to enter into a lease agreement of a building for recreational purposes. That would be an executive session. Legal and security would be receipt of legal advice relating to pending litigation entitled CKC Properties LLC versus Town of Mount Pleasant. And B would be discussion of, well, under that, I guess we already have a B, but under that is discussion concerning the development of security personnel and devices at public meetings. 2 is personnel, consideration of applications to serve on the Planning Commission, and consideration of applications to serve on the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee. That's a lot. Do we have a motion?
Motion to move to executive session
For the reasons stated?
for the reasons stated.
Thank you very much, and we have a second before we vote. Council may take action on any item, including any subsection of any section listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting, which this is. All in favor of going into executive session for the reasons stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will go into executive session. We will have some motions. Let's take the motions in the order that things appeared on the agenda. That's the best way to put it. I don't think that's legally required, but it's probably the most defensible way to do it. So, would the first one be where we moved items 3, 4, and 5 from A down to C? I believe that would be right.
Yes, sir, that'd be
So that
correct.
would be Mrs.
Whitley, yes,
Whitley.
I would like to make a motion to direct staff to negotiate a lease as presented in executive session.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can I make a comment, Mayor?
Yes, you may.
I just want to thank Ms. Whitley on all her work on this.
Me too.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you so
Ms.
much.
Hyatt, Ms. Hyatt.
Ms. Hyatt and Ms.
Ms.
Whitley.
Yeah, Mr. Haney, yeah.
And who else? And the mayor.
The mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go team. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next motion, please.
Motion to direct legal to continue negotiations and present an updated proposal to council regarding the, where are we at here? I'm sorry.
CKC Properties.
Yes, the CKC properties.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, we have one no. All right, motion passes.
Jake.
Mr. Rambo. Next motion, please.
I'll make a motion to direct legal in connection with the police department to prepare policies and ordinances necessary to achieve security measures presented in executive session.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Sir, the results shall be presented to the PJ&L committee.
Got it. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next motion, please.
I move that we reappoint George Gates to the planning commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to reappoint Mr. Gates to the Planning Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Are there any other motions or any other business before this council? If not, we stand adjourned.
Was that the longest executive session ever?
No, you're not.